Welcome back, everybody. This is Right Man in the Wrong Place. My name is Luke Tatum, and I react to music. I am very happy that you're here, and we are back with another donation request. So I'm practicing spending less time in the intro and just getting straight to the song because I know that's why you're here. We'll talk a lot later, but this is another donation request. It's from Ryan Lee. Ryan, thank you so much again for the donation on the Buy Me a Coffee link that you will see right below my face. And if you want to support the channel, that is the best way other than the like and subscribe and all the usual stuff you hear from everybody every single time you watch a video on YouTube. All right, we're going to do Darkeater Midir Remastered from the Dark Souls 3 original soundtrack, which came out in 2016. There are 4 composers that worked on the soundtrack. I don't know who did each song. Wasn't able to find that information. But you got Kitamura, Sakuraba, Saitoh, and Suzuki. Those are the last names. And although I know the Japanese names are different, forgive me. Okay, let's get into it before I go off on a tangent. Darkeater Midir. I assume this is a boss theme of some kind. Let's go. This reminds me of Shadow of the Colossus in the best possible way. I mean, that is a great thing. I said this when we listened to the main theme, which is the last reaction I recorded. I always overanalyze and think about what order I want to release things in. Like, I did so many Opeth songs on the channel already, or I have done so many Opeth songs that I wanted to start breaking that up. So even though I would record 2 or 3 or 4 Opeth songs in a row, I went back and changed the order. And so sometimes some of my stuff that I say might seem out of order. But the last song I recorded was Dark Souls 3 main theme. And here again, in this Darkeater Midir track, I'm hearing this melancholic, like, I mean, those strings are crying, you know, when it comes to what's going on. I don't know the context, but there's a lot here. It's a lot of emotion. And, if this is a like theme and variations type soundtrack where you have the main theme sort of coming in multiple places, arranged in different ways. Something like Deus Ex 1 has basically the main theme over and over, in a lot of different areas. And so if it's that kind of thing, I mean, you just have some really cool opportunity as a composer to reignite certain emotions at different points and in a different context, and maybe take it into a minor key or something like that. I'm really notoriously bad at picking out arrangements. So if it was the same theme, I probably wouldn't even catch that. But really like what I'm hearing. It's just definitely very powerful. I say all that just to say there's so much care that went into this composition, right? It's not, hey, give me a generic epic song. That is not what this is. But let's go back. Here, I'm almost hearing. Wow, this is 8 minutes long. I just now realized how long it is. Here, I'm almost hearing like a sort of a duality. So there's like the treble portion, the higher pitch stuff, and the bass portion. Portion's not the right word, but the instruments that are low in pitch and the instruments that are high in pitch, they seem to be in two different, maybe competing um, headspaces, right? It's like, I'll back it up a little bit and see if you can hear what I'm hearing. I could be crazy, but it's sort of like you have this thrumming, pulsing bass and the percussion and this kind of warlike sort of tonality. And then in the strings, you've got this still kind of a sadness. And there's some of the same comments I said about the main theme are kind of coming back here too, where it's almost like, I wonder if the protagonist is not like, I see evil, I'll go fight evil. It's more like I'm not sure what is correct, moral gray area, like, should I even be having this conflict, or possibly I have no choice, even though I might disagree with what I'm doing as a protagonist. I must go through these trials and face these foes that I don't want to fight, or something like that. I'll back it up a little bit more. I do want to catch that whole portion again. It's very powerful. Technical note, I know I'm right back where I was before, but the drums, to me, I can't actually hear the snare super well, but it sounds like a snare drum with the snares turned off. And so if you've never played a snare drum is like the drum. You play a drum set, like the note that you hear, you're going to hear like the hi-hats kind of keeping the beat, and then you're going to hear like the accent note, the pa noise, and that is going to be the snare drum. Rock music and all that. It's the main drum that the drummer kind of lives on, right? You toms and all that, you do your fills on, but you're hitting the snare all the time. In a concert setting, you don't always have a snare drum, but when you do, it's often used to invoke a military a sort of vibe, right? You'll hear a snare drum all the time in a march, because a snare drum is a marching drum instrument. But in say just a symphony piece, you may or may not ever have a snare come in, because it may or may not be appropriate depending on the context. Now, the snare drum itself, you imagine the drum, you hit the top, right? You've got a head, the drum head, which used to be an animal skin on the top, and then on the bottom, and it's a shell, and you tighten it, you change the pitch by tightening the screws around the top. But underneath, what makes a snare drum are the snares. You have these metal pieces that rattle together on the bottom. And so there'll be a little lever, and if you turn that on, you turn the snares on, they stick up to the bottom head of the drum, the bottom skin, if it's an animal skin. And so when you hit the drum, the impact passes through the drum, and it bounces around inside the shell. And since there's these metal pieces stuck up on the bottom, as the bottom head vibrates, the snares give it this kind of a, they move around together, and they kind of give it this metallic sort of sound. And it's a great accent instrument and all that, very military. But you can turn the snares off. You can turn the snares off, go the other direction, and then it's going to sound like a boo, boo kind of a sound. And so that's what I hear here, is a snareless snare drum. It's not bassy, right? It's still kind of a higher pitch. And if you don't care about drums, then I'm sorry, because I do. But that's what I hear. I'm not sure if it's true, but that's what I hear. Maybe it's a timpani, now that I say that. I don't think so, though, because a timpani resonates a lot. So this is a longer song. I mean, we may have movements to this one. Okay, maybe this is like an environmental change in the game. You hear that a lot. I'll back it up. But some of my favorite stuff that games will do is when you have a seamless transition from one sort of take on a song into the next version. Say an infiltration mission that has a I'm being sneaky portion of the song. It's kind of muted and it's building tension, and then you get into a combat situation and all the instruments kind of crank up and it becomes more intense. You know, electric guitars come in out of nowhere or something like that to make it, oh, now it's a battle theme, and then they'll go away when the battle's over and it gets back to sneaky, you know, that kind of a thing. Payday, the Payday games, Payday 1 and 2 are both excellent. I know there's a third one now. I have no idea if it's any good, but you know, it'll have you know, you're casing the place you're gonna heist, like the bank heists and things, and then, oh my gosh, they figured out we're here and we're trying to steal stuff, and so it's like, okay, masks on, let's start opening fire and taking hostages and all this stuff. And so that's a great example of that. I'm not sure if that's what's going on here, but that transition is weird, right? It wasn't like, oh, okay, the movement 1 is over, now movement 2 begins. This is just kind of a quick crossfade into another piece. So I really don't know what that's all about. Not that I have a problem with it. Just kind of is this now. Yeah, this has got to be like phase 2 of the boss or something. I do think it's a boss fight now. Again, so sad sounding the chords that we're getting from the vocals. arpeggio, and I have no idea if that's right. I think that's not even the right term. The strings are going all over the place in certain portions, right? This really keeps the intensity level up. It's not really, not much of a breath catching moment here. It's life or death. Again, boss music. It's got to be boss music. Okay, that was a very quick fade out. um, Interesting. Oh, I've never apologized in any of these videos. If you hear a rooster crowing, I hear a rooster crowing. We have chickens. They live right outside this office where I work. And so that's just going to be a thing from time to time. Hopefully, it doesn't totally ruin the moment ever. But wow, yeah, very, very intense. So I presume there's not really like a final note, final chord to that. It just sort of plays until the boss is resolved and then or the boss is defeated. And then you get into whatever's next in the game. That's I wish it had a final kind of like all in strings and percussion, everything sort of resolution. That's fine that it doesn't. But great, great stuff. This feels like the kind of boss in game that takes a long time to defeat, so therefore it justifies this really long uh, piece of music to go with it. And so I can also sort of feel this like I don't know if I have the stamina to continue this battle, sort of an element to it, like it's a battle of attrition, extremely powerful hero versus extremely powerful villain. Um, but again, you have that sad element, so it's like I don't know if the hero's a willing participant in this fight. Wow, really good, really really good. Makes me want to play Dark Souls. It's in my cart right now. The Dark Souls, I think, remaster of the first game is on sale, and I might pick it up. So, or you know what? I think maybe it's Elden Ring that I was going to try first. One of them are in my cart, or possibly both. I think that's all I have to say on that. Really awesome song. Ryan, again, thank you so much for the donation, for the request. Really enjoyed this thoroughly, and I'm looking forward to doing the next song for you as well. Y'all, thanks so much for watching. As always, like, comment, all that stuff is very, very helpful. If you do have a request, you want to make sure that I do get to it. I prioritize donation requests very heavily. You can find that all in the Buy Me a Coffee link right below my face. I'll see you on the next video. Until next time, just remember the right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world.